guys, today I'm going to be doing a tag video, at least I think it's a tag video. So today I'm going to be doing my bookish pet peeves. Most of my bookish pet peeves are not really things to do with the story. Most of mine are actually physical things, but I will mix them all up a little. I am not going to do what everyone else says in their bookish pet peeves video, even though they are my pet peeves. I am not going to go over cover changes and love triangles, because you can go on any bookish pet peeve video on YouTube and I can guarantee that everyone has mentioned at least one of these. So I'm not going to do it. We all know, we all hate cover changes and love triangles, so let's just leave it at that. My first bookish pet peeve is when you put your books in a bag and the corners crease or the covers crease. I don't want to get a whole tote just to put my book in. I don't want to carry like 3 different bags with all my things I need. I take care of my books. I can't stand bent spines. I have to read my books like this because I do not want to break the spine. An example is this book. I carried this book in my bag and you can tell that the design has started to come off. I always hate that when you have these shiny covers and they start to peel at the edges, or where you've had them they start to crease, and it really frustrates me. But this spine is in perfect condition. I mean, it's a bit tacky here, but this is good compared to some of my other books. I really take care of my books and I don't know what my bag does to them. My bag probably just beats these books up. Like 13 Reasons Why, I did borrow this book to a friend, but it started to come in the corners and it's got a bit yellow because I think one of my drinks exploded and it started to crease here. I mean, the spine is a bit damaged, but I can blame that on my friend. And there's little dents where things have been bashing into it. So I try very hard to take care of my books, but I don't understand why these books do this. In relation to book condition, it's yellowing pages. I know you can't help that books get old, but I can't help but look at my shelves and I just see like an array of mixture of whites and yellows and beiges. Like these, for example. Perks of Being a Wallflower is getting yellow and it's getting a bit dotty. My version of The Hobbit is pretty bad. Lovely Bones. The Lovely Bones is worst. I think I got this book pre-owned. I don't think I actually bought this book new. But still, it's getting a bit yellow, get a few yellow dots here. I don't understand. I want these books to stay new and white and clean for as long as possible. Next bookish pet peeve is to do with libraries. I get quite a few books out from my library. Sometimes I get books out the library to sort of try before I buy, or books that I just pick up and I read the whole book through, but I enjoyed it but I don't actually want to buy it. And I don't know if it's a problem with your libraries, but in my libraries they only have the sequels. I've picked up a book before, it says, oh, that looks really interesting, and then you read further down to the blurb, it's like book 3 of this series, and you cannot order in the first book in the series, and that is really frustrating to me. You can't order it in from other libraries because they don't have it on their system, or they've never had it, or someone else has borrowed it out and I can't wait, and it's really frustrating. Worse is when it doesn't tell you it's in a series. You start reading it and you think, I don't know these characters, I don't know this plot they're trying to talk to you about. So that is a bit frustrating. Another thing is to do with, I think it's the publishing companies. They only have the maps and or family tree in the first book. A prime example of this is the Grisha trilogy. You have the map in the first book, but you don't have it in the others. They do have the orders of the Second Army in here in the third book. I don't know about the second, but they do have it in the third, which is quite helpful when they try to explain what robes they're wearing and who's who. But I want maps in second and third books and all the rest in this series. I want maps to fold out of the pages, so when you're reading it, when they mentions you a place, you just fold the map out and you can see in correlation. Because that is really frustrating that they say we tracked from this place to this place and you don't know how far it is or anything, and that is quite frustrating, and I don't want to keep flicking back to the first page to look at the map because it just breaks up the reading and it slows the pace down, and you're trying to figure it out and then it's just no point. Next thing in physical is tall books. I'm talking about paperbacks. I don't mind tall books, but they need all be the same height. These are some of my tall books, and you can see that they don't match up. Why can't you just have a standard tall size? You can have a standard short size, but not a standard tall size. It doesn't look right, and especially me, who assembled these shelves to fit certain books. When I rearrange my bookshelves, which I do often if you actually look in the background of my videos, I have to have a certain series on a certain shelf because they cannot go anywhere else, because I've adjusted these shelves to stand at a certain position. Hardcovers are guilty of this too. No. Another bookish pet peeve, I don't know if it's just a peeve for me or I'm just really picky, but it's bookmarks. I have so many bookmarks. I have like a tiny drawer just full of bookmarks that I've like collected and bought over the years. And I can't stand the really flimsy ones that you have to literally flick through the book to try and find your bookmark. Ones that are so short you sort of have to stick them sticking up out of the page. And obviously when you have your book in your bag, the bookmark falls out and you lose your place. But another one that kind of irritates me are these magnetic bookmarks. I see the idea behind them, but I don't like how they look. If I use Deathbringer for an example and just get out a random page, bookmark it in, you have this gap. I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to look, but it just doesn't sit right with me. This sort of links back to libraries, but it's also with bookshops. You see a book on the shelf, but for some reason you can't borrow it or buy it out at that particular moment, and when you actually go back again, you never see that book again. And what's even worse is when you can't remember the name of the book or the name of the author. I remember ages and ages and ages ago when I was younger, I borrowed this book from the library and then I wanted to borrow it out again, but I couldn't remember the name and I couldn't remember the author, and I vaguely remember what happened, and it's my own fault, but I cannot find that book again, and I really want to read it again, but I can't remember the name of it. I think I do know the name, but every time I look that name up, nothing's come up, and that is annoying. This may be personal taste, but when books are reviewed by really good authors and you read that book because they think it's good, you'll think it's good, and it just turns out that the book was shit. I could go on about this book. I could do a whole video of why I hate this book. Now we get into the actual storylines and things that commonly appear actually in the book, in the story, that just really grinds me. Representation. There are too many books out there that have the protagonist is straight white. There needs to be more books that will have people of colour and with different sexual orientations. There needs to be more of that. All the guys have long floppy hair and beautiful eyes, and all the girls are either ginger with freckles or they have long brown hair or long blonde hair. I want to see people of colour. I want to see girls with really short hair, and I know I'm saying this because I have short hair, but I want girls with short hair. I want guys with weird coloured hair. I want to see guys with piercings. I want to see people with tattoos. And I'm not saying this because that they were different from other people, that they set themselves off in a crowd. I want representation. I don't want everyone to look the same. This book and this book are the closest things to what I want and what I have in mind, and these is probably the reason why these are my two favourite books. Person of colour, person with short hair. It sounds silly that there's a person with short hair, but they break the mould. They break the mould in female characters. I got a bit ranty, so I'm really sorry if I said something that offended you or something I just went a bit over the top. I'm sorry. In terms of writing is when too many characters are introduced at once in a chapter. You can introduce 5 characters and they say their names and their descriptions, and I lose track. I don't know if that's me, but I lose track trying to remember all these characters and what they look like and who they are. Just break it to me gently, bit by bit. Don't swamp me with 10 characters all at once. Please don't do that, please. Stupid characters. This sounds really silly, but stupid characters where someone mentions something to a character or they find something out and it's like, I do not know what this means. And you're reading the thing and I do. I know exactly what you mean, I know exactly who you're talking about, I know exactly what's going on. Why can't you see it? I know it's to bring out the tension and stretch it out a bit more, but it's so obvious. The reader knows. Why are your characters so stupid? And my last one, my last bookish pet peeve is when you buy a book because the premise sounds really interesting and it starts off really well, and then the middle and the ending just crumples and it just tears it away. It just falls apart and it is just terrible because they had this massive idea and I don't know, sometimes it's the way it's written, sometimes it's the way they follow through. An example of this is Monument 14. I can't remember the author, but I will put it here. That concept was really good. It's about these 14 teenagers, or some of them are not even teenagers, some of them are really small children, and they are all locked down in a shopping centre because the world outside is being destroyed. It's basically an apocalypse. That sounded really cool. Luckily I borrowed this in the library. I got the first one and the second one as a try before you buy because I couldn't find the third one in the trilogy. So I bought the first and the second and I read the first one, I didn't read the second one and I returned it. Because the concept was really interesting and it just turned out horrible because nothing happened. The writing didn't flow. It basically told you what happened. This happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And it didn't flow, and the whole premise was that like there was this volcano exploded and it was sending all this ash and poisonous gas. Depending on your blood type, it either made you infertile, mentally insane, violent, or like your skin bubbled up and blistered. And it was very weird and I didn't like it. I'm sorry, I didn't like it. Prime example is the Dark Heroine. The concept sounded really interesting to me. Really interesting. Yeah, the girl gets kidnapped by these vampires and she's taken into their house, which is full of opulence and grandeur and splendour, and it's really high class and really nice. They're basically from two different worlds and it sounded really good. And then the middle is such a huge book. Obviously it's going to break away from that, but the direction they went in, it was just horrible and I didn't like it. That is all my bookish pet peeves. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment what you think, if you agreed or disagreed, and I will see you very soon.